Should the Buccaneers try to trade for an all-pro cornerback? Why not? Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and in today's video, we're talking about a potential what-if scenario coming up in this current offseason, and that is, should the Tampa Bay Buccaneers try and trade for Jacksonville Jaguars all-pro cornerback, Jalen Ramsey? It has recently been reported that the Jacksonville Jaguars are considering trading the former FSU cornerback this offseason, which to me absolutely blew my mind, but I guess it kind of makes sense from the Jaguars' perspective because, quite frankly, they just don't have the money to pay Jalen Ramsey. They're going to be in salary cap hell for a long time here coming up. They've given out so many huge contracts on the defensive side of the ball. I think they're actually going to be in the negative for cap space this upcoming offseason. So they just flat out, they don't have the money to pay Jalen Ramsey, which means they could possibly trade him and not have to deal with negotiating some big contract that they won't end up paying. So a lot of teams are going to be knocking, and should the Buccaneers be one of those teams? In my opinion, I think you should heavily consider it. And I know a lot of people are very off-put about the idea of trading for an all-pro cornerback because the last time the Bucs did that, it was Darrelle Revis. Greg Schiano traded a first-round draft pick to the New York Jets for Darrelle Revis. And by the way, the Jets didn't do anything with that first-round draft pick. I believe they selected D. Milner, so, nothing was done with that. But it didn't work out well for the Buccaneers either, as Greg Schiano was fired. Lovie Smith came in, decided, I don't really want to use Darrelle Revis. He got rid of Darrelle Revis, cut him, just absolutely flat out cut him. Darrelle Revis went to the New England Patriots, won a Super Bowl, and then just muddled around a couple of teams a little bit until he eventually retired. So it wasn't a good deal with the Bucs, as they only had Revis for 1 year. Taking that completely different situation aside, that was a completely different situation, different head coaches, different office staff, different player. Darrelle Revis was kind of at the end of his prime. He was kind of going in a downward spiral, especially since after he went and won that Super Bowl with the Patriots, he pretty much did absolutely nothing after that. He bounced around to a couple of teams and then eventually retired. This is a completely different situation. Jalen Ramsey's only been in the league 2 years. He's 24 years old, and he already has a Pro Bowl and an All-Pro nod in his second season last year. This will be his third season, but you understand the point. Jalen Ramsey is top 3 cornerback in the league. Maybe Patrick Peterson and another cornerback is better. I don't know. You guys can be the judges of that, but top 5 at least, right? Top 5 cornerback at least, who's 24 years old. That's a very enticing thing indeed. So yeah, I absolutely do think you should consider it if you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, if these reports are true that the Jaguars are going to consider it. And I know another thing that a lot of people are going to say, well, the Buccaneers don't have any money, they have to pay their players. Well, let's talk about that, okay? Right now, the Buccaneers' expected cap space in 2019 is going to be around $15 million right now, and that's without paying guys like Quan Alexander, Adam Humphries, and Donovan Smith. Those are the top 3 guys. The other couple of guys are like Brent Grimes, who's probably honestly going to retire, and Ryan Fitzpatrick, which that should be a very interesting situation. I don't know what kind of money the Bucs would give Fitzpatrick if they are going to re-sign him, but it should still be very interesting nonetheless. Then after that, in the next offseason, the 2020 offseason, you have to pay Deshaun Jackson if you decide to keep him, but honestly, he might even be traded away this upcoming offseason. You also have to pay Jameis Winston, which, oh my gosh, that'll be a very interesting topic to talk about as the weeks go on. You also have to pay DeMar Dodson, who honestly might retire after the end of the 2019 season anyway. And then in the offseason after that one, in the 2021 offseason, you have to pay guys like Chris Godwin, Kendall Beckwith, Jason Pierre-Paul, Levante David, Vernon Hargraves, and Justin Evans. Those are the biggest names there who are probably going to command the most amount of money. So the Buccaneers maybe have a little bit of a tight grasp of their salary cap situation. Maybe they don't have the money to pay Jalen Ramsey. But I'm here to say that, while it's not going to be perfect, it is 100% possible, okay? You still have some cornerbacks who are still on rookie deals, guys like Carlton Davis and MJ Stewart. Their contracts won't run out until the 2022 offseason, and then you have guys like Hargraves, JPP, Godwin, Beckwith, Levante David, Hargraves, Justin Evans. Those guys' contracts don't run out for 2 more seasons. And then really the only guys that you 100% absolutely should consider paying are Donovan Smith. I think you should heavily consider that one. and Jameis Winston probably. I think guys like Fitzpatrick, Grimes, Humphries, as much as I love Humphries, and Deshaun Jackson and DeMar Dodson, those guys are all pretty expendable. If they don't retire, then you could probably replace them with some pretty decent players regardless. So I think that those guys won't command as much attention in terms of the Buccaneers cap space situations. The big one would be Jameis Winston. Now, obviously, you could get rid of Winston and take the money that you would give Jameis Winston and give it to Jalen Ramsey, because Jalen Ramsey's contract actually does not run out until the 2021 season. So 2019, he's under contract for an average of, I believe, $5 million. And then in 2020, it's his 5th-year option. I believe it's something ridiculous. I don't think it's $23 million, but I could be absolutely wrong. I have no idea. But if that is the case, then you take Jameis Winston's contract, or the money that you would give Jameis, you give it to Jalen Ramsey instead, pay him like the top cornerback that he would be. The top cornerback right now is getting paid an average of $15 million a season. That is Josh Norman. You would expect Jalen Ramsey to probably command that much money. So it's possible, but you'd probably have to get rid of some high-tier players like Jameis Winston or Deshaun Jackson or whatever. It takes some finagling, but it could work. Obviously, if you wanted to get rid of Jameis Winston, you'd have to look at potential quarterback replacements like Justin Herbert, the quarterback out of Oregon, Daniel Jones, another quarterback out of Duke, and then Will Grier, the quarterback out of West Virginia. But you could also go with this option, okay? You trade for Jalen Ramsey. You play the 2019 season, Jalen Ramsey making $5 million, Jameis Winston making his $23 million, or however much you're going to be paying Jameis Winston. And then the next offseason comes. You can decide what you want to do with Jameis Winston, whether or not he's going to be the franchise guy, or whether or not you're going to draft a quarterback. And in that situation, not this upcoming draft class, but the next draft class, the one when you would have to, decide on Jameis Winston and whatnot, that draft class is absolutely loaded with quarterbacks. So there could be a situation where you draft a quarterback, you're able to give that quarterback money that you were going to give to Jameis Winston if he was your franchise guy, and you give it to Jalen Ramsey as a cornerback. That could 100% work, in my opinion. Now, obviously, if you want to decide to pay Jameis Winston, it might be a little bit tougher to pay Jalen Ramsey, but I still think it could work. There's a lot of contracts you could shed, like guys like Deshaun Jackson, like I mentioned, Bo Allen, Mitch Unrein, and Vinny Curry. These guys all have some heavily big tier contracts that have potential outs after 1 to 2 years in their deals, so you could make money that way as well to pay Jalen Ramsey the $16 million he's going to want to be the top paid cornerback in the league. So in terms of salary cap situations, it's very entirely possible. Now we've got to talk about draft compensation. What should the Buccaneers give up to get a player like Jalen Ramsey? Well, I think the closest example that we could come to is a more recent trade that just happened. The Chicago Bears trading for Khalil Mack from the Oakland Raiders. Khalil Mack's 27 years old. He's the best pass rusher in the league, in my opinion. He's in his absolute prime. He's going to be good for the next 4 to 5 years. And this is what the Chicago Bears gave up for him. They gave the Raiders a 2019 first-round pick, a 2020 first-round pick, a 2020 third-round pick, and a 2019 sixth-round pick. And they received Khalil Mack, a 2020 second-round pick, and a 2020 fifth-round pick that is conditional and whatnot. But you see the point. So it would probably take 2 first-round picks, maybe a third and a fifth, something along those lines, just to get the conversation started for Jalen Ramsey, who's probably just as valuable, if not a little bit more valuable than Khalil Mack, because again, finding a top-tier cornerback in this league is pretty much just the same as finding a top-tier pass rusher in the league, so you should probably expect the same type of draft compensation. The decision then comes to the viewers and, everybody else involved in this situation is, would you be willing to give 2 first-round draft picks up for Jalen Ramsey? I really value draft picks, draft capital, and whatnot. I really do value it because I like building up as much draft assets as we can so we can use it to just build a bigger and better roster overall. But honestly, if the Jacksonville Jaguars asked for 2 first-round picks and then some extra change later on, I would heavily consider that. And I know, James, come on, we need our draft picks because this Bucs team isn't that good. But, man, come on, 24-year-old Jalen Ramsey, you'd be 25 probably if you were going to make a trade there. But that's insane. That's insane. You'd have a good cornerback for the next 7 years probably until he's 32. That's something to heavily consider, you can probably make the money work. And then it just comes to the draft capital. I think that you would need to heavily consider a deal like that. I'd be willing to give up 2 first-round picks and some extra draft change to get Jalen Ramsey. The question is now that I present to you guys, would you be willing to do that? Guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this little bit of a scenario here. Should the Buccaneers trade for Jalen Ramsey in this upcoming offseason? I say sure, why not? Consider it. I'd give up 2 first-round draft picks for Jalen Ramsey. Like that, you know, if that's what the Bears gave up to get Khalil Mack, you know, I think that you should heavily consider that then, especially with the salary cap situation that the Jaguars are in. You know, Jason Light might make a really, really splashy move and just say, screw it, I'm going to get a really top-tier cornerback, and we're just going to work. What do you think about all of this down in the comment section below? Do you think the Buccaneers should trade for Jalen Ramsey? I want to know all of your guys' opinions. I'm sure I'll be putting a poll sometime in the future. I might be putting it in the community tab. I might be putting it in the top right eye icon in this video, but I still want to know all of your guys' opinions. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you all enjoyed. And in the next video, I might be talking about the Buccaneers signing Le'Veon Bell. We'll see about that. But anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you all enjoyed. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. But until then, and as always, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.